Drones, radars, guns, missiles and tanks. Ukraine does it all. Welcome to Talking Tactics. In this episode, it's about an often underreported subject: Ukraine's own homegrown weapons industry. According to Natalia Sad, spokesperson of Ukroboronprom, the state weapons company, less than 50% of what the Ukrainian army is using today is Western military aid. Most is either of Soviet heritage or it's weapons and technology that were developed and produced here in the free and independent state of Ukraine. So, you can think about it like this. While foreign modern weapons are hoped to be a game changer and provide Ukraine with the necessary advantage in any future counteroffensive, the Ukrainian weapons industry is focused on upholding the daily needs of the army. Before the beginning of Russia's war of aggression in 2014, Ukraine was ranked as the fourth largest weapons producer in the world, according to a statistic by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute from 2012. The war, however, caused the focal point of most of the weapons production in Ukraine to be shifted from export to the country's own needs, and since the full-scale invasion, Ukroboronprom now focuses solely on producing for its own national defense. The challenges, however, have been plentiful. In March 2022, 3 employees of a weapons factory were killed in a missile strike in Zhytomyr, and since then, a lot of the production has been moved to different locations outside of Ukraine, since weapons factories are such obvious targets for Russian missile strikes. Still, Ukroboronprom is doing everything to uphold its vital supply of weapons and ammunition to the Ukrainian armed forces. In the last 9 months of 2022, the Ukrainian defense industry produced 7 times the amount than in all of 2021. Founded in 2010, Ukroboronprom is a so-called conglomerate. That means that it really consists of 130 different enterprises structured into 5 divisions: aviation, high-precision weapons and ammunition, armored vehicles and engineering, shipbuilding and marine facilities, communications and air defense. As you might have guessed at this point, Ukraine really produces a lot. Flagships of the Ukrainian production include their own battle tank, the T-84 Oplot, and the largest plane ever built was produced in Ukraine, the so-called Mria, which was destroyed during the battle for Hostomel Airport. You can check out our correspondence reports on both subjects by clicking on the links in the description. Ukraine also produces its own assault rifle, the Malyuk, also known as Vulkan. Yes, that's Ukrainian for volcano, and the weapon is a development of the Soviet Kalashnikov, but changed into a bullpup layout. It means that the magazine is located behind the trigger instead of in front. Malyuks are available in 3 calibers: 7.62, 5.45 and 5.56 NATO standard. So depending on the variant, they can be loaded with AK-47 and 74 magazines, which is quite handy. The Ukrainian company Black Storm has developed a series of kits that allows Ukrainian soldiers to convert their AK into a DIY, so do-it-yourself bullpup independently. Ukrainian weapon systems have also been responsible for some major victories during this war. The world's first recorded successful attack with a naval drone was conducted on the 29th of October 2022 with Ukraine's own produced naval kamikaze drone. With up to 5.5 meters in length, a maximum speed of 80 kilometers an hour, and the ability to carry a payload of up to 200 kilograms, the Russians had no idea what hit them when a swarm of these drones attacked their ships, including the Admiral Makarov, one of their prize vessels. The Navy has become one of the focal points of Ukrainian weapons productions since the Ukrainian Navy lost 80% of its fleet after the occupation of Crimea in 2014. But not only with the new drones has Ukraine been able to strike back on the water in spite of having weaker numbers on their side. Another example is the R-360 Neptune, an anti-ship cruise missile. The Neptune is based on the Soviet Kh-35, but with improved features like a range of almost 300 and a homing radar capable of finding and locking onto a target within 50 kilometers. According to Ukroboronprom, the appearance of Neptune in the theater of combat helped to set several records at once. Thus, Russia's fleet was reduced by 16% in one strike. For the first time in 110 years, Russia lost the flagship of one of its fleets. The MOSKVA became the first cruiser sunk in action in the world in 40 years. The sinking of the MOSKVA in April 2022 through a Ukrainian-produced Neptune missile is definitely something that won't be forgotten. Another important asset is the Stungna P, also known as SCIF, an anti-tank missile designed by the same company that developed the Neptune. It can shoot 4 different kinds of missiles in 2 different calibers, and after firing, the missile is guided using a special module from which the operator steers via joystick and video feed. Hence, there is a lot of footage of this particular missile and a lot of videos of Ukrainian soldiers cheering when Russian equipment is decimated.
Yeah! 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 Yeah!
A lot of these weapons, they're being used for more than what they were actually designed for. Ukrainians have used the SCIF to shoot down at least one Russian Ka-52 helicopter. The SCIF has a higher range than the NLAW or the Javelin. The disadvantage, however, is it's heavier and bulkier, and can't be fired from the shoulder, but has to be set up on a tripod. The Neptune as well as the SCIF were being produced before the full-scale invasion last February. But in spite of all the challenges, Ukraine is actually launching new projects, such as the 2S22 Bohdana, a Ukrainian-developed self-propelled 155mm howitzer. It was first presented in 2018, but only one prototype was built until Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov announced the mass production of the Bohdana this January, while stressing the importance of an independent Ukrainian weapons industry. A story on the side, the first and only prototype was used in June 22 to shell Russian forces on Snake Island. For those of you who don't know, the battle for this island in the beginning of the invasion resulted in the catchphrase "Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй." These very blunt and hard to misunderstand words of a Ukrainian serviceman became famous all over the world. In Ukraine, you can find them now on cups, flags, bumper stickers, and much more. Of course, there are many more Ukrainian weapons that we haven't managed to mention in this video, but hopefully you got a good insight into the Ukrainian weapons industry, which has really tried to win a couple of races at once. On the one side, it's about Ukraine being able to produce ammunition and spare parts to be able to maintain Western equipment as good as possible without foreign help. On the other side, it's about keeping the supply of ammunition and spare parts for already existing weapon systems flowing, as shortages on both sides are becoming an ever larger problem in this war. Just an example, Ukroboronprom in February announced the delivery of a large supply of 82mm projectiles that were gladly received by those boys on the front line who are still fighting with Soviet-era equipment like the 82mm automatic mortar Tubin-9 Vasilyok. It's important to mention that apart from the companies of Ukroboronprom, small and independent enterprises are now developing new warfaring technologies and products and are hoping for contracts from the Ministry of Defense. One example is in the drone sector, where the Ukrainian government regularly hosts competitions. In these competitions, young and upcoming developers compete for the best drones and essentially about contracts for their production. You can watch our video report about this by clicking on the link in the description. Otherwise, thanks for watching Talking Tactics. Hit like and subscribe, and see you next time.